What you see in the picture here is a spring coil belt. And what I'm going to be doing today is installing this as a belt on my Singer treadle. And right now it has the 1588 in it. And this is the current leather belt. And I want to show you something. I'm going to treadle this for a moment and get the I wrap masking tape around it after I'm done, but basically when you buy a leather belt, it comes with a single staple, and there'll be a hole in each of the two ends, and you simply put the staple through the two holes after you've run the belt through the flywheel and up and around the hand wheel of the machine. But a lot of times the belts are either too long. They usually come, I think it's 72 inches. So at least one end you're going to have to cut and fit the belt completely so it's tighter than this. This is too loose on your machine. And you can either use the staple that it comes with, or what I do sometimes is use dental tape. It's like dental floss, only it's called dental tape. And you can thread a regular, like, embroidery needle with that, and you can actually lace the belt together using the dental tape. And that's just easier for me than the staple. Sometimes if you're going to join one with the staple, you need pliers to tighten or close the staple after you get it joined. So this belt has been on here for a while, and it's got different taped areas because I actually had to piece. It was too short, and I had to put pieces in here. So what I've done is order a spring coil belt, and I've done this for two reasons. First of all, this one, they send you 10 feet of spring coil. I ordered the 3/16 of an inch diameter, and 10 feet is obviously going to be too long. So I will remove the leather belt. I will then thread the coil belt the same manner on the machine through the flywheel and the belt guards and around the hand wheel. And then you buy the connectors that just screw the two ends together. So simple installation. It is 10 feet long, so you will have to cut it. And to cut it, you're going to need simple wire cutters, like these. Now, the reason I'm buying this, I have two reasons. One, there's a little bit of stretch in these belts. So the machine that I have, the 1588, is the one that the hand wheel belt groove is the shortest from the hand wheel to the table. This is 6 3/4 inches from the top of the belt that's on there now to the machine bed. My Singer 237s are 7 inches in that same measurement. But I am hoping that because there is stretch in this belt, that once I install the belt, when I go to change the different heads into the treadle, the belt will simply stretch to meet the 1/4 inch height of the Model 237. Now, the way I have it now, in order to put another machine in this treadle, I have to unattach the belt here, the leather belt, and either recut it or get another piece if it's too short and lace it together, staple it together again. And I'm hoping the coil belt will alleviate all of that because it'll just stretch enough to accommodate the other machine. If it doesn't, or if for some reason it doesn't bounce right back when I put the 1588 back in, or the shorter machine back in, then I will just use it as a regular treadle belt in this treadle for this machine. And it should last a very long time. It was $21 and some change, plus $6 shipping for 10 feet plus 5 connectors, so it was $27. I will have some left over, and if I go ahead and do the same thing on my white treadle, then obviously I'll have a piece left over from that one too, and if I had a third treadle, I wouldn't have to buy a belt because I could just use connectors to put one together. So this was $27 when you can get a halfway decent leather belt for $7 to $8, $10 a piece. But I'm more or less already sure that this belt will certainly outlast 3 leather belts. So it works out about the same. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is remove the leather belt, and then I will thread this through the flywheel and attach it at the top, and we should be all set, and then we'll see how it works. Now, as I'm removing the leather belt, this is where I had to put a piece in. I think the staple area is down here, and I had to put a short piece in here. And this is the lacing I was talking about if you're using a leather belt. And that's dental tape. And I basically just lace it through the 2 holes. When I had the Wheeler and Wilson, which had a wider belt, I had 4 or 5 holes across a wide flat belt. And then, of course, it looks more like lacing. But this is the same idea, where you can just lace the 2 pieces together like that. And to remove this, I'm just going to cut that lacing, and the belt will fall off. Okay, I've taken the old belt off, and you might want to hang on to your old leather belts in case you need a piece of leather, or in case you come across a new machine that happens to be the same height as one of your other machines and you need another treadle belt. It's good to hang on to them. This is very, very flexible. Look at that. And I've been wondering how this is going to work. I've also been wondering if it's going to scratch the belt guard on the machine. Now, on my white, I wouldn't worry about that as much because that machine is already pretty well scratched. Even this one is not in the greatest of condition. But if you have, you know, a pristine antique machine, one suggestion, where there were 2 suggestions from TreadleOn. One is to put black electrical tape in the belt groove to prevent any scratching. I don't know that there will be any scratching, but you could do that if you wanted to be sure. Or you could also use an elastic band such as comes on broccoli in the grocery store and put that on the belt groove. And that would keep the metal wire from actually hitting the machine. But let me show you what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to start on the bottom. And this is a little dusty. I've actually been using this a lot, so. And you can start at either the front or the back, but you basically have to get the belt to go around the flywheel. And I have to say, working with this is the first time I've ever seen this, and working with it, it's just like handling a leather belt. So I've put this through the front belt guard down in the groove of the belt, of the flywheel. I'm pulling it out the back, and then it has to go into the back belt groove. And then from there, it has to go up to the hand wheel. This machine has an open area, but a lot of times there will be 2 holes here, one in the back and one in the front, and the front piece of belt would go up through the front hole and the back would go up through the back hole. So let me just get this to come up to the top. It's actually going to be extremely convenient if you can just screw it together or unscrew it with the connectors. Okay, so now it is tight around the flywheel. So now I'm going to pull it up from the back, get it onto that belt guard. And actually, I'm going to push it under the bobbin winder. Now you have to keep it on the lower flywheel while you do this, so that you actually have the length of the belt when you're ready to use the machine. Now before you cut anything, you want to make sure that it is actually on the lower flywheel and around the belt guard in the right area. Now I'm stretching it a little bit. I think I'm going to cut it about here and then connect it, and it will have just a little bit of stretch in it as it goes around the machine. I'm going to make it a little long from where I just had the cut, because you never want to cut things too short. I think I'm just not hitting it right. Alright, so I take the excess away. Put this back through the belt guard. And now what I can do is actually disengage the flywheel on the bottom and get the belting out of the flywheel. And what that'll do is just make it easier for me to connect it. And then that tension will go back on once I put it back on the flywheel. This is what the connectors look like. And you just screw them down into the belt. Now I didn't know anything about this, so I had to ask on TreadleOn. And there were a couple of people that use these. Oh, I wonder if I have to cut that end piece off. That's basically how it goes together. That's the connector right there. But one edge of the connector has one little coil thing that sticks up. And I'm not sure if I have to cut that off or if it's just I have to screw it down a little tighter. So let me get that together a little better. I want this with less of a gap, and then I'll put the belt on the flywheel. Okay, so I have the connector pretty close. I haven't tightened it all the way down. And you can see that this is just hanging more or less half on the flywheel and half off. And what I'm going to do is, it's in the belt guard here, and I am just going to ease it into the groove of the flywheel along the bottom. And there are usually a couple of ridges on the side of the flywheel that you can use as like a tab to put it in place. And you can do this from either the front or the back. It's easier for me to put the camera down and do this. And that went right in. So that's what it looks like underneath. Now, of course, what wouldn't happen with a leather belt is if the leather belt came disconnected, it wouldn't fly around and hit you in the face. Maybe not so with this. So I'm going to go slow for a minute, and I'm going to see if it looks like that connector area is going to come apart at all. Just want to get some thread under the needle. Wow. Wow. Works great. Now that's how much play I have in it. But remember that I left it a little long. The only reason it would be better to cut it shorter, which is the first actual length I had, would be if I thought that I needed extra tight tension. But I didn't want to cut it too short, so I left it a little long. Excuse me. This will actually probably give me the play I needed to put the other machine in. Sorry. Because the machines have a 1/4 inch difference between their height. So now when I put the 237 in here, I think I won't have a problem at all to just pop this over the top of the 237, and it'll only be slightly tighter than it is now on the 15. So far, no problems, and I do think it's worth the money because it will definitely last at least as long as 3 of the less expensive belts. And it's very smooth, so I'm not sure how much scratching it might do anyway. But if I see scratching, I'll probably put black tape on the hand wheel. So let's try it again. I'm excited. I've known about these for about a year and just didn't get around to getting one. And then when obviously the leather belt I had on there was wearing out. Let's see if I can do this, and you can see how it works on the flywheel. I'm not left-footed. Now I think that little bit of a whiny noise might be from the belt, but we'll have to see as I use it. So there is installing a spring coil treadle belt on a Singer treadle with a 1588.